So let's start in a seated position, whatever seated position is comfortable to you. And just take a moment to just arrive in your practice, whatever shape you want to take, and just close the eyes or take the gaze down low and just become really present with yourself. Become present in this space. And just begin to observe the breath, how it's entering the body, what it feels like when it comes across the nose. And follow its path. Observing, no judgment, no concern for trying to change it, but just taking these opening moments to just see how you are within your own vessel. And then we're going to take a moment to just become very intentional with the breath. We're going to start with a deep inhale and just follow its path as it comes across the nasal passages and comes across the throat. See if you can take it nice and full all the way through the first chamber of the chest and to the lowest part of the lungs. And just feel that breath take up space. When it does that, the belly should kind of push out from the diaphragm, expanding behind the belly, and then follow that wave of breath all the way back out. The belly button will draw back towards the spine, and the diaphragm will come back up towards the chest, helping that release of the breath out of the lungs. You might put a little sound with the breath. You might start to drop into a little Ujjayi breath work or just a soundtrack, an ocean-like sound. And when we become really focused on the breath, our body will begin to relax. The shoulders will drop away from the ears. The jaw will soften. Tension that we hold across the chest and in the belly, across the back, will start to melt away. And that's when we start to recognize the importance of the breath and how it involves the body and the nervous system. And then slowly take the palms together at the heart center. So just take a moment to place an intention for your practice. I've been focusing a lot on love for the month of February. So whatever intention, if there's someone, something that needs some love, maybe place them on your heart and bow down into this sacred space just to seal it for your practice. And then opening the eyes. Let's take a couple sweeps of the arms, sweep them up towards the sky, and exhale back down towards the earth. Take another inhale with movement and exhale as we release. Last time, sweep it up and then just drop that left palm over to the earth and stretch out through the right side. So when you do this, try not to fold forward. Try to stay in the side body, just reaching up and out of the side of the rib cage. And just creating space for each rib to take up. And then coming back through center, we'll switch it over to the right side, lifting up and out of the left arm. And then bring it back up. Take that left ear and just drop it over to the left shoulder. And then take the right arm and slide it behind the back. If you can grab the right wrist, just giving a little extra traction for the neck here. Involving a little tiny pull so that the neck's getting a nice stretch. Release that palm behind the back. Drop the chin down towards the chest until you get the chin lined up with the sternum, and just take a moment here to just let the back of the neck stretch. If this causes any pain, you can just skip it. And then lifting the gaze all the way back up. Let's do the other side. Right ear over to right shoulder. Take the left arm, sweep it behind. You can grab the wrist and just pull over. You might even feel some sensations running all the way up into the jaw. Release the traction of that arm and then drop the chin down towards the chest, slowly making its way towards the center. Take a moment to just expand through the back of the cervical spine. And then lift the chin all the way up. Take a couple shoulder circles here. And a couple shoulder circles in the other direction. And then we're going to spin around. We're going to come onto our hands and knees. So if you need some padding underneath your knees, you can take a towel, a blanket, or something, and spread your fingers nice and wide. If you look back at your knees, your feet should kind of disappear. And we're just going to take a couple cat-cows here. So scooping the belly and rounding through the spine, create a really deep stretch into cat. Empty the breath, and then take an inhale. Let the belly drop towards the earth. Spread the collarbones. Cow. And we'll go through this a couple times. Exhale through cat. Inhale through cow. Exhale through cat. And inhale through cow. Coming back to a neutral spine. I want you to extend your left leg out behind you. Just press into the ball of the left foot. So just take a minute to just love on your feet and just open them up. And also extend that stretch into the back of the ankle, the back of the Achilles, all the way up the calf. And then we're going to come into a spinal balance. So lifting that left leg off the earth, keep the toes flexed, and reach the right arm out. Spinal balance. And just notice what happens in your body here. If you start to drop into the shoulder or back towards the hip, try to zip everything up through the core. Line the ear up beside the bicep. Spin that right pinky finger towards the earth. The left toes are facing the mat. And just explore your breath here. This balance becomes a little intense as you continue to hold it, and then release it. Drop it back down to the earth, and we'll do the right foot. Push into the earth. And then lift that right leg off the mat. Extend by pushing out through that heel. Lift the left arm up. Spin the left pinky towards the earth. Pull the toes back. Stay really strong through the torso. Breathe. Don't hold your breath here, and then release. Bring it back down to the mat. We're going to tuck our toes, and we're going to come into toe stand. So as you come into toe stand, for some of us, we might want to stay right here. This might be super intense on the balls of the foot. It may be super intense running through the arch of the foot. There's a lot of ligaments and fascia that run through the bottom of our feet, and we lose a lot of flexion as we age, and a lot of us end up with plantar fasciitis just from becoming really tight in the bottom of the feet. So just take time, and no expectation, no judgment, to just let the feet kind of be massaged by the weight of the body. Some of us are able to stack all the way up. And then release. Go ahead, tap out your toes, spin them around a few times, wiggle them. And then we're gonna take puppy pose or melting heart pose. So from here, you just reach your fingertips out to the top of the mat and just sort of drop down onto the forearms. You keep your hips up, so they're up towards the sky, and then you can drop your forehead down on the mat as well. Just keep reaching out through the arms. You're gonna feel a really nice deep stretch under the armpits and through the side body. And this is really good for melting that heart down towards the earth, beginning to open a little bit across the chest. If we have tight pectorals, if we have a tight serratus rib cage up the side body, this is really, really yummy for that area. Just take a couple breaths here, and then slowly slide the palms back underneath the shoulders, and then we're going to come into a little bit on the back side. So we're going to sweep the left arm up towards the sky, slowly opening into that side body, and then we're going to thread the needle. We're going to drop the left palm down to the earth. If you need to bring a block or something underneath the left cheek, we're going to thread it between the right wrist and the right knee and just drop the left cheek either to the earth or to a block. So you're going to get a really deep stretch through the back of the left shoulder blade. So if you have some shoulder issues, you don't have to go quite as deep. You can stay a little higher here, but just starting to bring in some space between those two shoulder blades and starting to stretch a little bit in the shoulder capsule, and then sweep it back up. Come back up to table, and we're going to do the opposite side. Sweep the right arm up towards the sky. Exhale, drop it down towards the earth, and find wherever you can settle for just a couple breaths here. And then slowly bring it back up to a table. So tucking the toes, walking the palms back towards the feet. We're gonna squat and start to lift up, and we're gonna come into a forward fold here. So just taking your time as you extend the legs straight, but no intention to make them completely straight. You can certainly have a nice bent knee. As a matter of fact, I want you to. So I would like for you to bend really deeply in the knees so that your belly kind of just hangs out on the thighs. So for this first forward fold, we're just kind of taking it into the back, taking a nice moment to just let some traction come through the neck and through the spine. And we're not taking anything into the legs themselves. We're just anchoring through the feet and letting our entire upper body get a nice long stretch. Let the gravity of the earth be your friend. Take a couple more breaths here. You can shake your head yes and no. And then I want you to begin to slowly straighten the legs. And when you do that, you will feel that shift of the stretch going into the back posterior chain, the back of the legs. You'll feel it run up the hamstrings and maybe all the way into the glute. And take a couple more breaths here. And then slowly make your way up into mountain, into standing. So take your time as you come up, because we are upside down for a long time there. Just don't want anybody to get super dizzy, including myself. And then we're gonna come from the back of the mat, we're gonna walk up to the front of the mat. So standing here in mountain pose, take a moment to just roll the shoulders away from the ears and find a really firm foundation. Feel the toes make contact with the earth, and then I want you to try to lift all 10 toes off the mat, peel them off and flex them up off the earth, and then place them back down onto the mat. And then I want you to just rock onto the tippy toes and feel the heels lift off. Find all that balance in the ball of the foot and place them back down. Let's do that one more time. Peel all 10 toes off of the mat, and then placing them back down on the earth, try to rock onto the tippy toes. So you really have to find alignment here. You have to make sure that your chin is stacked on top of your spine. You have to make sure everything's drawn in and engaged. Shoulders are stacked on top of the hips, hips on top of the knees, knees on top of the ankles. And then we find that proper alignment. Of course, this is how we wish we walked and stood all the time. But it just takes a moment of awareness to work on it, and eventually, hopefully, it becomes part of our posture. So take the palms to the heart center and take a big inhale. Sweep the arms all the way up. Grab your right wrist and just pull, this is my left, sorry, pull over to the right. So just taking a nice extra stretch into the side body. It is that time of year. And with all the things that are going on, we want to try to keep our respiratory system as strong and healthy as we can by making space in the ribs. That certainly helps. Grab the right wrist and pull over to the left. And then release. I want you to take a forward fold, hinge at the hips, and just start to hinge all the way down towards the earth. As you reach down towards the earth, take an inhale and let the palms slide halfway up the legs, all the way up to the knees. Take a strong flat back here, and then exhale, drop it back down again. We're gonna do that 2 more times. So inhale, move with the movement, and exhale, slide back down again. Inhale 1 more time, strong back. Exhale, slide back down again. This time I want you to slide your right foot back and find warrior 1. Left leg is going to lead. So rise up and find warrior 1. So when we come into warrior 1, just think about trying to get the hips to turn forward, facing the same direction. And if that means your stance needs to be a little wider rather than straight behind, it's fine. Finding that integrity in the pose without any pain is the goal here. Soft through the shoulders, let them drop down the back a little bit. Try not to squeeze your ears. And just take a couple breaths here in this powerful pose. And then we're going to straighten the left leg, maybe shorten your stance a little bit. So both legs are straight here. And we're going to fold over the left leg, called pyramid pose. So we're going to reach out over the left leg and start to come down over this left leg. If you have any blocks or books or anything at home, it's kind of nice to use them to just, so that you don't have to go super deep. So sometimes in yoga, especially with the younger people, their ego's so big, they think they have to be like super bendy. But right here, we're just going for a hinge at the hips so that we can really get into the deep, deep hamstrings. So this is the main hamstring of the 3 that we're trying to just get to lengthen and release. And it inserts right into the glute. And the more we can find length in the back of that hamstring, the less tension we're going to carry in our backs. You know, when it's really, really short, it really pulls and tugs in your low back. So on an inhale, come back up, step forward, mountain pose. So sweep the arms all the way up again, grab that left wrist, pull it over to the right, and release it. Grab the right wrist and pull it over to the left, and release it. Fold at the hips, hinge all the way down to the earth. Exhale, lift halfway up. Inhale, float up. Exhale, sweep back down to the earth. Inhale, slide back up. Exhale, down to the earth 1 more time. Inhale, slide it up. And then release the palms towards the earth. Slide the left foot back. Find warrior 1 again. So one of the nice things about Zoom, if you're looking at yourself in the camera, you know, you can see yourself if you're leaning forward, if you're leaning back. So trying to find that center and trying to make sure, again, chin is stacked on top of spine. We're not squeezing our ears. And we're breathing. That really nice full breath that we created in the beginning of class, we try to keep that through the entire class. We're going to straighten the right leg, shorten that stance. Hips stay forward. Inhale, start to hinge and take a real controlled forward fold. Again, just hovering over this right leg. It can be a little bent. If you have really tight hamstrings, it's gonna be a little bent. And we're just gonna pause here, try to relax the neck, try to let any tension out that you're holding in the upper thoracic spine and in the cervical spine and even in the jaw here. Make sure you're not clenching. And you're breathing, and then inhale. Use those blocks as a kickstand to sweep it all the way back up and then step it forward. And we're back to mountain again. So sweep it up. This time I want you to take a chair pose. So sinking the hips, dropping into this power pose here. So there's those hamstrings, glutes, and quads again. The same thing that we're trying to lengthen, we're going to try to strengthen. Make sure you're not hovering too much forward. Try to stack again, tall spine, and just feel that powerhouse work. And then take a big inhale, come back up to mountain. Inhale, sweep it up. Exhale, forward fold down to the earth. I want you to slide that right foot back again. We're going to come into warrior one again and just build on to this little sequence here. So we're here in warrior one again. Straighten the left leg, shorten your stance. Hinge out over the left leg, forward fold. Lengthen into the back of that leg. Inhale, come all the way back up again. This time we're going to come back into warrior one. So slide that right foot back, warrior one. And then open up into warrior two. So spin that back right foot. Arms extend nice and long. Warrior two. I'm going to turn around because I don't like having my back to the camera. They say that's bad karma. I don't know. So warrior two. Feet are really flat here. And I like to think about peeling my mat in half, like trying to split it in half. The gaze is over the left palm, the left fingertips. Shoulders are relaxed down the back. And then I want you to straighten this left leg. And then I want you to bend it again. Exhale. Straighten. And exhale, just strengthening again in that hamstring. A lot of focus on the hamstring. Straighten one more time. And warrior two. Try to step that back foot to the front. Mountain. Inhale, sweep it up. Exhale, forward fold. Slide the left foot back. Warrior one. Straighten the right leg. Shorten your stance. Inhale out and over the right leg. Pyramid pose. Inhale, come back up. Exhale, warrior one again. Open up, warrior two. So you really feel that opening in that interior line of the legs. You really start to find that engagement in the right front leg, but be active through the back left leg too. And then we're going to straighten the right leg. Exhale back to warrior two. Straighten the right leg on an inhale. Exhale, warrior two. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, warrior two. Straighten the leg and try to step forward. Mountain pose, sweep it up, grab the left wrist, open through the left side. Take the right wrist, open through the right side. Release, sink the hips, chair pose, second chair pose. Get deep here. And then stand up, mountain. Wiggle it out a little bit. Roll your shoulders around a little bit because they get a little tight and tense here after some of that work. And then I just want to take some shoulder mobility work before we come into some balance work. So I want you to sweep your left arm forward, near you, and your right arm behind you. And then I just want you to sweep them back and forth. So we're working on a little bit of shoulder mobility. We're also working on some neuro pathways for the brain. And then I want you to try to circle them. That's why I started slow. Because we're going in opposite directions and the brain is doing a whole lot of work while the shoulder mobility is working. And then pause. Okay, we're going to do the opposite. This is where we get confused. So do you remember which arm was floating in which direction? And then circle it around. See, even I get confused. And I got a bad shoulder. So just finding that place where we can kind of circle it out and laugh at yourself, sweep it left and right, open, close. But it's really important to work on those neuro pathways. This opposite stuff is really good for making a connection and keeping our mind flexible too. And we're also just working a lot in this shoulder capsule. So one other thing I want to do is take your elbows up okay? Little like cactus arms. And then I want you to try to rotate them this way. So I do a lot of mobility work in some of my my more basic classes, because I think that's what we're trying to gain anyway, right? When we practice yoga. So, okay, elbows down. I want you to try to lift the left elbow a little bit higher. And then I want you to try to sweep it behind your back. Try to tap behind your back. So if you've ever had any shoulder mobility problems, you're feeling this right now. If you've ever had frozen shoulder, this is a PT move for frozen shoulder. Hang it up. We're going to take the right arm, lift it up and sweep it back. Lift it up and sweep it back. Lift it up and sweep it back. Relax it. Relax those shoulders. And then we're going to come to the feet again. So we're going to come into the toes. This time I want you to try to play piano with your toes. So when you lift them all 10 toes off the earth, I want you to try to put your pinky, your toe next to it. So just taking them one at a time down to the earth, and then try to peel them off one at a time. Try to place them back down onto the earth and try to peel them off again. And then the other direction, changing how you place them on the mat and then trying to lift them off again. Don't get frustrated. It is crazy how little control we have over our toes. But if we work on them, we'll start to bring back a whole lot of flexion. So wiggle them out again. Okay, so now all that is very awakened, very aware. So this will help us become really balanced in tree pose. So we're going to take our tree pose with a whole lot of awareness in this hip, in this left hip. So when you come into tree pose, everybody's very familiar with it. What I want you to be really aware of is where the movement's coming from, which I want it to come from the hip, not the torso, not the entire sacrum, but just in the hip. So the only thing moving is the hip socket. Turn that knee out. So maybe it stays on the floor, especially if you're exploring this movement with a little more awareness than you typically do. Maybe it comes to the ankle. But all of that work we did in the feet starts to create a little more intention into grounding through that right foot. And so your tree might not be as wide as it usually is. That's okay, because we want it to come out of the hip and then release it, place it back down on the earth. Right side, lift that knee and rotate it. Rotate in the hip. Everything else is solid. No movement. Tree. And then release it, place it back down on the earth, shake it out. We're going to take a 90-degree balance pose. So coming back to the right foot, spreading those toes nice and wide, bring that right knee up and 90 degrees, just bending it 90 degrees here. Balance, you might take your opposite hand to the knee and place the left palm on the hip and maybe look over to the left. And then release, wiggle it out, and left foot anchors through, right knee bends. Find something to just focus on, your drishti, your gaze point that doesn't move. Draw that core in. Left palm can come to right knee. Place the other palm on the hip and maybe look to the right. And then bring it back to center. Place the foot back down on the earth and wiggle it out. So take a nice wide stance here. This is called goddess pose or wide leg stance. And then turn your toes out towards the corners of your mat. And then take a big inhale. This is, in my practice, we learned called sunflower. We're going to take the elbows down towards the hips and the knees are going to bend, and we're going to come into a really deep plie or deep squat. Inhale, bring it back up again. Exhale, bring it back down. Inhale, up to the sky. Exhale, bring it back down. Inhale, up to the sky. Turn the toes a little bit towards me again. And then we're gonna take that forward fold. Slowly start to make your way into a fold. If you have those blocks, just support yourself a little bit, or you might be somebody that likes to just hang out here, relax. You can have the knees slightly bent. And then take an inhale, place the palms underneath the shoulders, lift halfway up. Strong core, you can take your palms to your hips. Nice long back, and then inhale, come all the way back up again. Look to the front of your mat, whichever direction that is. I don't have a front because I move around all the time. And we're back to mountain pose, right back where we started. So take the palms to the heart center. Take a big inhale, sweep them up towards the sky. Exhale, hinge at the hips as we lean down towards the mat. I want you to slide that right foot back one more time, warrior one. Inhale, back up, here we are. So we're gonna launch off into warrior three. And for some of us, that may be a really small lift, but we're just gonna try a little balance work from the prep work that we did with tree and 90. And we're just gonna slide this right foot and maybe lean a little bit here. Finding where we are. Maybe the palms come to the heart center. Maybe we just feel what it's like to lean into this front leg. And then practice a little courage of flying. And then slide that right foot to meet the left. We're going to sweep it up one more time. This is the last of the warrior series we're going to do. Forward fold. And then we're going to slide the left leg back. Warrior one, rise up. And then prepare for warrior three. Choosing how you want to take this pose. If you just want to explore it with a little bit of weight forward, or if you really feel strong enough today to lift off a little bit, maybe you have a wall or a chair that you can use, but just working into courage. And then coming back, sliding that left foot to meet the right. We're gonna make our way down to the mat from here. So take a big inhale, and this is the way I want you to get down to the mat. I want you to see where your mobility is in a squat, a full-on squat. So it goes through chair, and maybe this is it. Maybe this is as far as your knees allow you to go, as far as your strength lets you go, or maybe your Achilles kick in. There's something that's going to stop you. I just want you to find out what it is. So seeing if you can squat all the way down. And then landing on the mat. And the only reason I like to do that is just sometimes we don't take time to slow down and get down to the earth and find out what it is that's stopping us from going down. So when we take that awareness with us, we recognize what those things are. And then we can acknowledge them, and maybe there's something we can work through, and maybe they're not. But just becoming like very in tune to your body. So here we are on our seat. I want you to draw your knees up towards your chest. We're just going to try to balance in a little boat pose here. So whatever that looks like for you, if you have to lean back just to lift your knees off the mat and take boat this way. Maybe you can find a place where you can lift the arms off and just balance. Just checking in with the power of your abdominals, and then release it back down. We're going to try that one more time. So rocking back onto those sit bones, finding some sort of fleshy place that can help us kind of balance. Bringing the knees up to the chest. Maybe exploring holding the back of them. And release. Extend the legs nice and long, bounce them out a little bit. And then I want you to take your left leg and just bring it into a half butterfly. So the left base of the left foot is hitting inside somewhere along the right leg. And if you need a prop here, I've got a bum knee. So mine does not like to open up really wide on that side. So just coming into a half butterfly, opening into the back line of the hamstring, still working on that today, and this inner thigh. Sitting up nice and tall. Think about just hinging, just leaning a little bit over the right leg. I don't want you to take anything into the low back. We don't have to curve the spine. It's just a little hinge and hover over that leg. And then straighten it, or sit up and straighten the left leg, bend the right knee, open it up nice and wide. Sit up nice and tall, make sure your hips are facing forward, and make sure that this extended leg, the left leg, you're not hyperextending out of the leg, you're pulling that hip back into the socket. So anytime we're working with the shoulders and the hips, we want to make sure that they're in the safest place, which is in the socket, not hyperextending. So we're more likely to injure ourselves if we're out of those joints. So again, start to fold. Doesn't have to be deep. And then come back up. Keep that right knee bent, and then we're going to join it with the left. So Baddha Konasana, butterfly pose. Doesn't have to be squeezed in here. It can be a nice wide diamond. It can be nice and loose. And you can hold on to your ankles, you can hold on to your calves, even your feet. And then again, I want you to start to fold over both of these legs, not taking anything into the low back, not trying to create any discomfort in the low back, but just opening into this interior line of the legs, just starting to really enjoy a nice inner thigh stretch. And then slowly lift up, bring the knees back together. We're going to find our way onto our back. So lowering with intention, with awareness, bring it all the way down onto the back side of the body. Knees are bent. And then I just want you to take the feet and maybe open them about mat width apart, so that they're wider than your hip width, okay? And then I just want you to drop both knees off to the right. So this is a deep stretch through the upper left hip flexor, the left quadricep, and the left hip. You'll feel it maybe run up the side body a little bit. And then bring both knees up to the sky and drop them over to the right. There's all kinds of things going on. You have a psoas muscle that's getting a really nice stretch right above the hip, and that connects into the low back spine. So this is also a really nice little alignment for the low back. If you have any low back issues, sometimes this is a nice little pose to come into, and it just sort of makes the sacrum, so lift them back up to the sky and then drop again one more time over to the right. It sort of makes the sacrum do this little thing back and forth until it seats itself back into alignment. If it's just a little misalignment, it really helps. Sweep them back up towards the sky one more time. Drop them off to the left. Make sure that you're starting to come back to that really nice full breath that we created in the beginning of class. Bring them back up to the sky. Bring the feet back together a little bit closer. We're going to take pigeon pose on the back, or figure 4. So taking the left foot, placing it on top of the right thigh. And then using your own weight of that right leg to lift it off the earth and just pull it in towards the chest. This is going to give you a nice stretch in your left hip. So this to me is a nice loving pose for your body. This is a place in which a lot of us are a little tight and we hold a lot of emotion and tension and stress in our hips. So a nice little self-love stretch here. Releasing the left hip, placing the feet back down on the earth. Take the right ankle, place it on the left thigh and lift off. Finding a nice stretch for the right hip. Make sure that you're taking some nice, full, smooth breaths, and then release again, both feet back down to the earth. So we're going to stretch the legs nice and long. We're going to finish up with 2 of those banana stretches on the earth, which is a nice place to do it on your mat. So I want you to take both feet, pull them over to the right corner of the mat, and then I want you to try to take your upper body and move it over to the right side of the mat. So there's a couple options here. Lifting your arms up and overhead. If that's super difficult for your arms to reach back, you might have a block or a pillow that you can kind of rest them on so that they're not overextending and causing any pain. You can grab elbows, which makes a super intense stretch through the left side of the body, or you can grab the left wrist like we did in standing pose. You can also cross the left ankle over the right ankle, which is going to get a little deeper in the IT band that runs down the left side of the leg. So these are all variations of this pose that we can take here, but the most important part here is to take some really full breaths. And then we're just going to switch. We're going to take it over to the opposite sides. So legs go to the left side of the mat, upper body tries to go over to the left, and the right hips trying to squeeze out to the right. So just creating a banana-like shape. So in Yin Yoga, there's a lot of talk about meridians and these energy channels that run through the body. So if I talk to you about that, I would tell you right now, you are working on the heart meridian, which is what? Because this is a side body, but it's running up your armpit and all the way up to your little pinky finger and down to your digestive tract. And that's the heart meridian. So you're opening up this great channel of love and also healthy for your digestive tract. So release it, coming back onto the back into just a long extended pose for final resting pose, Shavasana. So take a moment to just arrive here. If you have a blanket or a sweatshirt or anything that you want to cover up with and make your own little nest. We're going to take our final resting pose right here on our backs. Flip your palms over and let them receive all the gifts from your practice. Close the eyes and let go completely. Surrender into the earth. Feel all the benefits from your practice wash over you. So you can remain here for as long as you would like, or you can begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. One of the beauties of practicing at home is there is nobody coming in and telling you you have to leave the studio. So if Shavasana is your jam and you really need to just chill out longer today, just hang out here. And for those that are ready to move, you can sweep the arms overhead, you can bend the knees, and you can just roll to the left or the right, pause on the side body, use that upper arm maybe for a pillow for just a few moments. And then slowly returning yourself back up into a seated pose. And whatever comfortable pose that is for you, coming all the way back up. And then I'm just going to close practice by drawing the palms together at the heart center. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be free from pain and suffering, and may you know peace. The light in me honors the light that resides in each and every one of you. Have an awesome day. Shine on. Namaste.